In a single day, over 80,000 Romans were slaughtered, more than at Cannae. This was not the fall of Rome, but it was the day the Republic began to bleed from within. Today, we uncover how arrogance, rivalry, and division doomed Rome at Arausio. Defeat so catastrophic it reshaped the Republic forever. If you were a Roman soldier that day, would you have followed your arrogant commander into certain death or defied orders to survive? Tell me in the comments. Picture a world where one republic's banners stretched from the ruins of Carthage to the palaces of Greece. By 105 BC, Rome stood unmatched, its legions drilled to perfection, its fleets unchallenged, its enemies subdued. To many it seemed as though the gods themselves had chosen Rome to rule without end. But history is rarely so kind. Beneath the triumphs lay fragile foundations, and cracks were already forming in the marble of empire. Power breeds arrogance. Arrogance breeds downfall. What happens when the greatest army in the world is led by a divided people? In Rome, politics turned toxic. The Optimates' wealthy conservatives clashed with the Populares populists promising reform. Veterans returned from war to ruined farms, while elites hoarded wealth and land. Soldiers began pledging loyalty not to the Senate, but to commanders who promised them rewards. That's a dangerous shift. Loyalty is Rome's true coin, and it was being devalued. For centuries, Rome's armies had been made of citizen farmersmen who fought, then returned to their fields. But endless wars stretched this system thin. Farms lay abandoned, veterans ruined, and recruitment faltered. More and more, generals promised land or spoils in exchange for loyalty. Soldiers began serving men, not the state. That's a seismic shift. The Republic's strongest weapon, its disciplined legions, was quietly being rewired into private armies. From the cold forests of the north, a storm rolled southward. The Cimbri and Teutones were not just raiders, but entire nations on the move, families, wagons, livestock, warriors, towering, fierce, and relentless. They carried hunger and desperation as their allies. To Rome, they were an unpredictable force, unlike traditional foes. These weren't states to be crushed or cities to be besieged. They were floods of humanity, unstoppable until satisfied. How does an empire built on victory react when it suddenly tastes defeat? In 113 BC, at Norea, the Roman legions faced the Cimbri for the first time. The result was a disaster. The Roman army shattered, survivors fleeing in chaos. For the Senate, it was unthinkable. These were not rebels to be punished and forgotten. This was a migrating storm, unpredictable and hungry. Rome's aura of invincibility cracked. For years after Norea, the Cimbri and Teutones did not march on Rome. Instead, they roamed Gaul, sometimes clashing, sometimes moving on, always unpredictable. Each Roman failure emboldened them. Each Roman panic weakened confidence. To the tribes, it was survival. To Rome, humiliation. They became a moving nightmare, conquered, never contained. Two facts stood side by side. Rome could not destroy them, and they could not be ignored. Centuries earlier, the Gauls had stormed into Rome itself, leaving the city in ashes and fear carved into its memory. That wound never fully healed. Now, with the Cimbri and Teutones moving south, old nightmares resurfaced. Every rumor of tall, fair-haired warriors brought shivers to the Roman heart. It wasn't just about strategy, it was about trauma reborn. Fear is the most dangerous ally of the enemy. What happens when your leaders despise each other more than the enemy? Rome found out in 105 BC. Quintus Servilius Capeo, an arrogant aristocrat, loathed Gnaeus Mallius Maximus, a new man from humble roots. Their rivalry poisoned strategy, split authority, and fractured unity. Instead of one strong command, Rome fielded two camps, separate, suspicious, and hostile. Before a battle was fought, the Republic had already sabotaged itself. If you're hooked by this story of Rome's hidden cracks, hit subscribe, because next time we'll uncover the day Augustus himself broke down in despair after a disaster in the German forests. Sometimes the gravest danger isn't the enemy in front of you, but the ally beside you. Caepio's contempt for Maximus was legendary. He dismissed him as unworthy of command, refusing even to share plans. The Cimbri were united by survival. Rome was divided by ego. That contrast sealed the Republic's fate. Two leaders, one war, zero cooperation. Imagine two massive armies, camped side by side on the Rhine River, but with invisible walls between them. Caepio and Maximus refused to combine their forces. keeping their legions apart like rival kings. Soldiers sensed the tension. Orders conflicted, morale eroded. Before the Cimbri struck, Rome's unity had already collapsed. An army divided is an army defeated. What does it feel like to stare down an entire people, not just an army? The Cimbri and Teutoni stretched for miles, wagons, children, warriors, livestock, all moving as one living tide. Their fighters were tall, fierce, and unshaken by Roman steel. Rome had faced kingdoms before, but this was different. You cannot outlast a nation marching for survival. That's a terrifying truth. Sometimes ambition kills faster than any blade. Scipio, craving glory, refused cooperation and led his army across the Rhine alone. He believed victory would silence Maximus and crown his honor. Instead, he walked into a trap. Surrounded, his soldiers fought bravely but hopelessly. Thousands were slaughtered, others driven into the river to drown. Scipio escaped, but his arrogance did not. The Rhine ran red with Roman blood. Scipio's legions, abandoned and surrounded, were crushed beneath the fury of the Cimbri. Spears pierced shields, cavalry was scattered, and discipline dissolved into chaos. Those who tried to flee drowned. In the river, dragged under by the weight of their armor, Scipio slipped away, but his reputation sank with the dead. Rome had lost not just men but pride. What happens when an army learns its ally has been obliterated? Maximus's camp, shaken by Scipio's disaster, faced the Cimbri next. Demoralized soldiers met the enemy with fear instead of fire. The barbarian assault tore through the camps. Defenses and panic spread faster than commands. Resistance collapsed. Discipline vanished. What began as arrogance ended in annihilation. Ancient historians claimed between 80,000 and 120,000 Romans and allies fell at Arausio. Numbers so vast they eclipse even Cannae. Southern Gaul lay exposed, its towns unprotected, its people terrified. The Republic trembled. Rome had lost not just soldiers, but generations of fathers, sons, and brothers in a single day. This was more than a defeat. It was a national trauma. Was Rome truly defeated by the Cimbri or by itself? The tribes fought with ferocity, but Rome's arrogance and rivalry had paved their victory. Internal division, not barbarian strength, had delivered disaster. The Republic's greatest foe was not beyond its borders, but within its Senate, within its generals, within its pride. That's the brutal truth. Out of Rome's ashes rose an unlikely savior, Gaius Marius. A new man without aristocratic blood, but with unmatched determination, granted supreme command. He restructured the legion's opening enlistment to the poor and forging a professional army. Discipline returned, victories followed, and the Cimbri were finally broken. Rome survived because one man dared to reinvent its military, but with that reinvention came a hidden price. Marius's reforms saved Rome, but they also rewired it. Soldiers now swore loyalty to their generals, not the Senate. That bond of steel and oath would one day empower men like Sulla, Pompey, and Caesar, leaders who turned armies into political weapons. Arausio wasn't just a catastrophe. It was the spark that set Rome's future ablaze. Empires often fall not in one blow, but in a chain of consequences. Arausio was not merely a battle. It was a warning carved in blood. When unity collapses, even the mightiest empire bleeds. Rome survived the Cimbri, but pride and rivalry had opened a wound that would never fully heal. From this disaster came reform, ambition, and the long road towards civil war. Next time, we'll explore another moment when Rome's fate trembled on the edge of ruin.